This week, one listener wants to set healthy boundaries in their relationship without being controlling, while another listener wishes her husband cared enough about her to set any boundaries at all. When do boundaries become toxic? When and how does a marriage devolve into a roommate situation? We'll do our best to make sense of it all. Welcome to the talking phase. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Talking Phase podcast. My name is Tom, and I am joined, as always, by the beautiful, talented, and always effervescent Pam. Pam, what's going on with you?
Well, today, Pam is also freezing. North Carolina has gotten very cold very quickly. I'm locked down tonight. I was supposed to go to a killer party, and instead I'm staying home to avoid the icy roads that I'm told are going to plunge Raleigh into a city and highways of mass destruction.
Look at you
Which
being
is,
all responsible and everything.
yeah, and it sucks because it was a house party and it was really looked like it was probably going to be the best party of the new year. And being that it's January 10th, that was going to be the level at which we needed to get to for better parties. Anyway, they're still having the party. I'm just not going to it. So I'll get to watch it in pictures and probably be really upset with myself because it won't snow and it won't be icy. And I will have been stayed home for nothing. But other than that, so it looks like the empty nest is not as difficult as I thought it would be. And that's not because I don't miss Nikki, because I do, of course, miss seeing her. But at the same time, I realized that I didn't have to worry about seeing her that much because being that she doesn't live that far, I, I see her and I talk to her. And I honestly wondered if the time would be quality over quantity once she moved out. And I told her last night, she and Adam were here. We were watching a movie and having dinner. And I was talking to her and I said, I think that I was right. And I think that it is more quality time when we're together. Like we really want to be together. We're not just living in the same house.
Huh.
So, I think that I'm going to be fine. Granted, it's only I guess it's been 7 days since she officially moved out of the house. So it could be bad next week, but this week it's feeling okay. And I'm listening to a ton of podcasts, not just ours, although I do listen to our podcast and I
Of course.
love that.
Which ones are you listening to?
The one that I listen to the most, and they do 2 a week, is You Up.
Mm-hmm.
Throw them a little bit of a bone. They were the podcast that made me want to do a podcast. They're a dating and relationship podcast also, but they skew very young. I think their audience is probably 20s and 30s max.
Are you calling
So
our audience old, Pam?
no, but older than their audience.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, based on the numbers that I see for our audience, I think that we draw people within 10 to 15 years of our ages.
Yeah, I would agree.
So they are definitely pulling from a younger group. What is happening in Utah?
Well, let's see. I had a doctor's appointment this morning, and not to be too graphic, but let me just say this. To all you gay guys out there, I don't know how you do it. That Dr. Jellyfinger thing, ugh,
Oh
that's
my
like
God.
this is the worst experience in the world. So yeah, good on you guys. So being back here in Utah, as always, or so far, I guess I should say, it has been stunning how much fun I'm having.
Stunning. That's
Yeah,
a nice
I'm seeing.
word.
Thank you. Seeing my kids a lot more than I've heard, obviously, than I did when I was not in the state. And then last or just a couple of days ago, we got together for our newly scheduled monthly dinners. So everybody was
Nice.
able to get together, and yeah, I brought Laura along.
That's no
Um,
surprise.
well, anyway, but it was one of those. Is it time for her to meet with the kids? And they loved her. There was no, it was so comfortable. Everybody just loved her. So I mean, what more can I ask, right? And she did say something to me the other night. We were talking about relationships. Obviously, we have conversations like that, um, and I'm just going to share it. It's not worthy, in my opinion, at least, of like talking about for hours or anything here on the show. But I do want to say something, and maybe someone else is out there has heard this. I can't believe I'm 56 years old and I'd never heard this, but she said relationships work if you never allow Nick into your relationship. I said, who the hell is Nick? And she goes, no. Nick, name calling, insults, contempt, and keeping score.
Yeah.
Never let Nick into your relationship, and you can, well, I shouldn't say you will be successful, but you certainly have a much better shot at it. And
You
I
won't
just
cry
loved
as
it so
much.
much. Yeah.
And
Anyway.
I don't know, and don't let anybody name Nick into your relationship either. Don't let anybody into your relationship. But obviously, those are 4 things that when you told me what Nick stood for, I think I immediately said that was the last few years of my marriage, because I think that those are things that tend to happen when we've pretty much given up on a
I
relationship.
I think what you just said, Pam, I didn't even think about it until you said that. Those were the last few years of your marriage.
Yeah.
I think that if you allow Nick in, it's the last few years of any marriage.
Yeah. No, I agree with you
Yeah.
100%.
Well, having said that, Brian, have you let Nick into your marriage at all?
Never, never. We keep the door locked. We make sure no Nicks enter, only Nichols is.
Good job.
Perfect. Well done. How you doing there, Brian?
Doing quite well. Recovering from a couple of weeks out visiting family in the Northeast for the holidays, and of course got hit with some lake effect snow. So my travel plans got delayed by like 4 extra days when we were up there, and then everybody got the ick. But we're on the upswing, Tom. On the upswing and feeling good.
Glad to hear
Awesome.
that, Brian.
So, you know what? I wasn't going to say this. I got to tell you guys something I didn't even think about until Brian just said this. So, one of our, people know Brian and I work together for our day jobs. One of our coworkers, Mike, he spent the holidays in Mexico, and I was talking to him the other day, and I said, "Hey, by the way, how was your trip, man? Scale of 1 to 10, how was your trip?" And he goes, "Oh, it was a perfect 10." And I go, "Wow."
Well, I was right.
That is saying something. I don't care who you are. It's hard to get a perfect 10 on a vacation. And then he goes,
Agreed.
"Yeah, you have to discount the projectile vomiting."
Oh,
I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, half of the group." And it was him and his kids and his grandkids and everything. It was 28 people, and at least half of them got sick during this trip.
Ugh.
And so more than half of these people are out barfing. And then he goes, "And I was on a flow rider and I fell down and the wave shot me into the back and I hit my neck and it shot pain down my hand and I couldn't feel my hand for like 3 days. And then on the way home, we had to fly through Las Vegas instead of through Salt Lake. And so I had to drive home from Vegas." I'm like, "How was this a 10?"
yeah.
I mean, but it goes to show, in fact, I'm now going to relate that to dating. In fact, I didn't even think about this. We go on a bad date and then we start rationalizing shit. Because I felt good while I was on the date, even though everything sucked. So, and he's sitting there going, "Yeah, well, I was with my family and we were, that's what he wants to be with." And so he loved it, even though it was shitty. And I think sometimes we do that. Anyway, I thought that was hilarious.
Some people would call that a positive mental attitude.
I would call it, pulling the wool over your own eyes.
Well, I don't know, but he's probably happier than most people.
Not really. He's kind of an Eeyore.
All right,
Brian,
we're
would
not
you
going to talk
agree?
about him anymore.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get into this. I just want to tell you guys, our listeners, our TPP, our Talking Phase podcast family, they're the best people in the world. And the reason I say that is because we have started getting so many emails and messages from you guys, to giving us great topics or writing great emails, asking for advice and stuff like that. But we've gotten so many that we are falling behind because we only do one show a week. And so we've only been doing one email or one message a week. So we have to skip a lot of great emails. So starting today, we are going to probably do a lot more emails on the show. So I think everybody just better buckle up, because some of these are pretty wild. But
Yeah,
before we
I'll
get
say.
to that first email, like I do every week, I do need to ask everybody to do us a favor right now and share the show with some friends and family. Because again, that's one of the best ways to grow the show. It really does help. So, are we ready, Pam?
I am ready.
You've got
Go.
mail.
Boom.
And that's the first email. All right, here we go, you guys. First, is this the first email? No, it's not the first email of 2025. It's the second email of 2025. So, hi, Pam and Tom. First off, I just want to say how much I love your podcast. Thank you.
Ooh.
It's been a lifeline for me as I navigate a really complicated situation. I never thought I'd be writing in, but here I am, desperate for some outside perspective. And here we are, ready to give it to you. My husband and I have a long, messy history. We dated on and off for 3 years, broke up twice, and even lived together during that time. Despite all the ups and downs, we got back together and married
Oh.
late last summer. So they've been married, sounds like maybe 6 months at most. 2024. I thought marriage might stabilize things.
Right.
But instead, it feels like we're roommates who don't even get along that well. I'm going to pause for a second to say that I don't think that marriage ever stabilizes anything.
Never.
Just piece of paper. That's my opinion. So
But
here's what you wrote.
I'm going to stop real quick and say I couldn't agree more, and also say, remember, a marriage certificate is a contract between you and the government. It's not even a contract between you and your spouse. It's a
Right.
governmental contract, so it's not stabilizing shit.
And
So
I'll say that no matter where you go, you take you with you. So if you're in a bad relationship and you get married, you're probably still in a bad relationship. All right. Well,
absolutely.
here's where things stand now. We do not eat meals together because he insists on eating late and I prefer eating earlier. We never watch TV together. We can't agree on shows, so we end up in separate rooms most nights. We sleep in different bedrooms because of his snoring and our different temperature preferences.
My gosh.
Worst of all, we haven't had sex in months. And whenever
Ugh.
I bring it up, it turns into a huge argument. He even throws it back at me by saying things like, who would want to have sex? Wait. Who would want to have sex with that?
Oh.
She wrote, it's crushing. And I feel crushed just reading it.
Ugh.
If I was friends with her, we wouldn't even have to have an email be sent to us. I've suggested, half joking, half serious, that I should get on a dating app because I'm so lonely. And his response is always the same. Go ahead. I'm fine with that.
Oh my hell.
I feel rejected, disconnected, and hopeless. I don't even know if I'm looking for advice or validation that this isn't normal. Do people really live like this?
No.
Is there a way back for us? Or should I just accept that this marriage isn't working? Thanks for reading, and thanks for creating a space where people like me can feel less alone. Sincerely, rejected roommate.
Oh my hell. Pam.
That may very well have just won the saddest email of 2025.
Yeah. By the way, everybody listening out there, feel free to write us one that you think could possibly be worse. But what the hell?
If your situation is worse than this, hopefully you're talking to a divorce lawyer. I mean,
And a
I'm going to let you
therapist.
start because I'm going to take a minute and listen to what you think, and then I'll give you my 2 cents.
First off, if anybody was watching on YouTube, I was like literally covering my eyes, and I mean, I can't even. This is painful to hear something like that. Part of it's because I lived it, and I think that there's. I don't want to say it that way. I don't want to piss everyone off. Usually, it is accepted that the woman rejects the man sexually more than the other way around. That's usually kind of how people say it, but it's the wife rejecting the husband, but in this case, it's the other way around. He's rejecting her. So I can literally put myself and feel the empathy towards her because, during my 18-year marriage, for the last 15 years of that marriage, rejection. I felt unwanted. I felt ugly. I felt unappreciated. I referred to myself as an unused penis with a paycheck. Yeah, and
Damn.
that's how I felt in my marriage. Now, maybe she's feeling like an unused vagina, or whatever. I mean, the bottom line is, oh my gosh, the rejection, and then all of the stuff above it. Sleeping in the separate rooms. I believe, in Tom's personal opinion, when a couple chooses to sleep in separate rooms, I think that's the beginning of the end.
I
And
disagree on that completely.
that's fine.
Can I touch on that before you
Sure.
go back?
Yeah.
I think that there are a lot now, maybe in a new relationship, I would agree with you, but I think that there are a lot of situations where people sleep in different rooms. And I wanted desperately to sleep in a separate room in my marriage. I will say on the record, the marriage was already not good, but the level that he snored, it was absolutely impossible to get a good night's sleep. And he, like you, was a strong believer in the marital bed and we need to stay in the same bed. But I don't think I slept well for the last 5 years of our marriage. And when you're not rested and already angry at your spouse, it just makes you angrier. So I think that there are a number of reasons why sleeping in a room can be an okay way to go. So I'll leave that there and let you pick up where you left off.
Yeah, I think I personally, and again, this is just Tom's opinion. I have not consulted with any experts. This is just Tom's opinion. I just think that there's something about being in the same bed, and it's not about the sex. It's there's a level of intimacy that you share a bed, that you have that time together, just being in the same room, and that to me is important. And therefore, in my opinion, when a couple consciously says, yeah, I don't even want to spend 8 hours of unconsciousness with you. Now I get if snoring and other things cause there to not be unconsciousness,
Right.
that's a different thing. I get that
Right.
part. But I don't know if that's what the situation is here. I'm just saying, if I snored, that's in past tense. I snored really, really bad. And so when I got kicked out of the bed every night for years, and that helped to do I believe, again, I believe that helped the decline of my first marriage. So as soon as I got remarried, I started having all sorts of surgeries. I had hyoid bones removed or moved up. I had nasal surgery. I had my tonsils removed. I had a uvulectomy. I had my tongue shrunk. Um,
Damn.
I spent thousands and thousands of dollars because I didn't want that same problem in my
You were
second marriage.
you really associated sleeping together with.
Yes, and I do. Um,
Okay.
so so anyway, when she says we have a temperature difference, now did she say snoring too? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think she talked, well, I don't know. Let me go back up really quick. I know that she talked about we sleep in different bedrooms because of his snoring and our different temperature preferences. And I can relate to the temperature preferences also. So
Yes, so can I.
I can
I
find these things relatable. I would always prefer to spend the night with somebody that I love next to me, sleeping quietly. Um, I d she's given 2 good reasons for them to sleep apart. It doesn't really matter because the rest of the email is so derogatory that
yes.
it doesn't give a fuck what room they sleep in.
Yeah,
Like,
I will say not watching shows together, while that seems kind of dumb, it also seems like, again, the way she worded it, and we don't have all the details, but it sounds like it sounds like on both sides, they're both saying, "Fuck you, I'm not gonna watch TV with you."
right, well,
Um,
there's no compromise.
yeah, yeah, I wanna watch football, you wanna watch Dancing with the Stars, okay, how about we compromise and you come watch Dancing with the Stars with me once, and I'll go watch football with you once, or let's find a different show together, but it sounds like they don't even wanna try.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's my takeaway is also that they don't wanna try. Well, I don't know, because I was immediately gonna say he doesn't wanna try because she wrote the email, but it is very possible. I don't know. I can't like this guy. He told her to go on a dating app.
right,
Like,
yeah, we're getting to
and
that for sure, what the
she
hell?
she wrote this email, and so she seems to have really put her heart out here. I mean, but then if we pick it apart, like, we don't eat meals together because they wanna eat at different times, like, just compromise. And honestly, this is another vote for people that are choosing single forever. Like, there is no greater joy than eating when you're hungry and wherever you feel like eating, in bed, on the couch, at the table, it doesn't matter. Like, I am thoroughly enjoying that. Um, but if I'm in a relationship, I'm going to sit down and eat with that person. And maybe we have to compromise a little bit. Not watching TV together, again, I can totally relate. In my marriage, which was garbage for the last 10 years also, we watched TV in different rooms. Actually, he didn't watch TV. He would only read, and he'd get really upset with me and say, "Why can't you just lay down?" He always wanted to be in the bedroom from 5 o'clock on. "Why can't you just lay down and read with me?" And I read also, but reading is not a group activity. So laying in bed at 5 p.m. and reading a book because your significant other is reading a book, to me, that's not doing something together. But my
I agree.
ex-husband would disagree. Why can't you read with me? The bedrooms, depends on the situation. Now, we've gotten to the big one, which is sex and the dating app, which is, where do you go from there? I mean, clearly these are 2 people that are not going to have sex, and they worked really hard for this marriage. Like, they dated for off and on for all of this time, then they lived together, then they got married. And I don't know. My rule of thumb is if I'm dating somebody and it's not going well, you don't live with the person. And if you're living with somebody and it's not going well, you don't marry the person.
Exactly. They've broken up a couple of times. They've lived together. Again, this guy sounds like a complete douche. But I do have to say to, how'd you sign it? Rejected roommate. You got to take some of the blame here. If you've dated this guy off and on for years, broken up a couple of times, already lived with him, none of this should be a surprise. Now,
Yeah.
maybe the sex is different. We don't know. But everything else, I'm guessing he's always wanted to eat later. I'm guessing he's always wanted to watch a different show than she did. I mean, that kind of shit doesn't turn on and off that quickly. But the
Right.
fact is, here she is, married to the guy that she knew wasn't what she was looking for.
Right. Right. I mean, like, she is just as guilty in this situation of making a bad decision as I think that he is. I just think that these are two people who were too lazy to end the relationship and start over. And so they just went with the flow. And even though the flow seems like it wasn't very good, here we are. This is where it brought them. In a marriage, even in a relationship, if you can't compromise on basic human decency, like if you're going to tell your significant other that you don't care if they're on a dating app, then he's probably cheating anyway. And I don't know that, but like, he doesn't care about her. He doesn't care what she's doing. Like, I have no idea why they're still in a relationship. That's the bottom line. She says, do people really live like this? And you and I both said no. We're both divorced twice. I would be divorced 20 times before I would live like this.
Well, you'd probably be, I shouldn't say that. You'd probably be a little bit more careful and wouldn't have gotten married this time in the first place, right?
I've made a couple mistakes.
Let's hope so. I've got a question for you though. I mean, you know how I feel about marriage in general. I think it's a worthless piece of paper. But whether it's a marriage or just a long-term relationship or they had a civil union, whatever. So here are these two people that are legally and lawfully married.
Right.
What do you think? Should they even stay married? I mean, at this point, he's basically saying, I'm okay having an open marriage.
No, they should. If you're asking me, they shouldn't stay married. I mean, like,
okay. So you think divorce right now?
Yeah, I feel like even if they went to therapy, I don't think the therapist you cannot force somebody to do things that they don't want to do. You cannot. He's horrible to her. I am guessing she has tried to compromise on these things. I don't think she would have written this letter if she was super stubborn and it was all mutual. I think she's tried to eat with him and there's not a compromise. I mean, as far as TV goes, I'm not gonna lie. I like what I like. I when I watch somebody else's shows and I have to pretend to like them, it's a real struggle for me. But I would do it just to be in the same room with somebody if I cared about them. This is not a man who cares about a woman. He doesn't care enough to watch TV with her. And I'm pretty sure they could find something better than Dancing with the Stars. I mean, like, there's dramas, there's action. It doesn't have to be sports. It doesn't have to be reality. It can be something in the middle. Different bedrooms, I think, is a total situation where, if there's a reason and both people are okay sleeping in separate rooms, I feel like you are intimate when you're in the bedroom together. You are still having sex. You're talking, you're cuddling. And then when you've had sufficient afterplay, somebody getting up and going to sleep in the other room so that you guys can both get 8 solid hours of sleep. I don't find that to be a big deal. I would come back into the room and crawl under the covers in the morning. I think you can keep intimacy alive even in separate bedrooms or in separate houses, as we've spoken apart and living apart together. There needs to be some kind of intimacy though, and clearly there isn't if they're not having sex. So no, I don't think therapy can save this. If we were doing red flags or deal breakers, I would say this is a deal breaker.
Yeah, for sure. I got to tell you, just looking back through this email, the one phrase that I think both of us were like, oh my hell, is when he throws it back at her by saying, who would want to have sex with that?
I forgot about that.
Oh,
yeah, he's disgusting. I hope she's listening. He's disgusting. You can do better. Get out of there. And that's rarely advice that I give. But that's my final answer is this is not a man who deserves you. You tried way too hard. You ignored what was right in front of you. That's fine. You made a mistake. You have the whole rest of your life ahead of you.
I couldn't agree more. I sometimes get jumped too quickly to the get the hell out, but
Right.
oh
I know
my
you do. But
gosh.
when it comes from me, I feel like, damn. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know if
All
we
right.
helped
So I
you.
think let's see. Well, I hope we did. But again, we're not professionals. We can say that we've kind of walked in her shoes, which we both have to a certain extent, but
Yeah.
not obviously
Not to that degree.
yeah, as Brian always says, same church, different pew.
Right.
All right. So guys, let's move on to the next one. I know I say this every week, but I thank you again for all the ratings and reviews. I asked you earlier to share this podcast with friends and family, which I will ask again and every week. But also, the most important thing you can do is give us a rating and a review on whatever application you're using to hear our voices right now, because that is how the platforms know to share it with other listeners. So that's the
Yes.
most important thing I
And
can ask you
follow
to do.
us too.
Right,
Go
exactly.
subscribe, follow.
And if you don't know what to write in the review, just write something like, "Here's what I think rejected roommates should do." Give us, give the people who wrote those emails, give them advice, and we will share it with them.
No, and they can see. I think you can see the comments right under the videos on both Spotify and YouTube.
Right,
They're public, so that might be helpful to the people who write in these emails.
absolutely. Maybe make a little talking phase community of people supporting each other. That would be so cool if we could figure that
That
out.
does sound so nice,
Yeah,
especially if TikTok goes away. We'll need
yeah,
that someplace else.
yeah. Well, by the time this drops, we'll know. But
Yeah.
all right, well, guys, we really appreciate all those reviews. Keep them coming, and so I think it's time for the next email.
You've got
And here it
mail.
is. All right. Hi, Pam and Tom. I am a big fan of the show and have really enjoyed it. I'm reaching out because I'm struggling with a personal issue and would love to get your opinion. My girlfriend and I have been talking about boundaries when it comes to her interactions with people from her past, especially men. Of course, it's especially men. It's mostly her most recent ex, but she's also in touch with other men who I know would love, in capital letters, to be with her, and in capital letters, men she used to like but never dated seriously.
Wow.
Think it's toxic or even controlling for me to want boundaries in situations like this? Or is it reasonable to feel uncomfortable when their partner is in contact with exes and men from their past? I'd really appreciate your thoughts on this topic, and I'm sure others might have similar questions too. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Controlling or cuckolded? I love that word. Cuckolded.
What a great one. Wow. Are you
Well,
taking this or you want me
I
to
mean,
go for it?
I can go first. I mean, yeah, when I read this email, I immediately think of when I read most emails, I think of how they relate to my own personal history. And
Sure.
anybody who's listening to the show for a while knows that I am really good friends with Nikki's dad. Nikki's 30. That's my daughter. And we've been divorced for roughly 28 years. And we are really good friends. And so do I talk to him every day? No. Would I give up the friendship? No. Should anybody be jealous? No. As far as men today, like I just got done saying that I had lunch with a man who is one of my very best friends. He's married. His wife knows that we're friends. There's never been a flirtation. There's never been any crossing of the line. And I thoroughly enjoy that friendship. If I was in a new relationship and this person said, look, I don't want you to talk to him, there would have to be a really, really good reason. Like he's saying that he's positive that these men like her. And I do think that a lot of men automatically assume that any man talking to their girlfriend or their significant other wants to get in their pants. And as a matter of fact, I just said to my friend today, I said, a lot of people automatically assume that there's more going on just because we're hanging out. And I said, do you think it's problematic? And he said, absolutely not. And I agreed with him, just that if he wanted to be with me sexually, or if I wanted that, but we never spoke about it and we're just friends, I don't think it's a problem. I don't know. He says, do you think it's toxic or controlling for me to want boundaries in situations like this? Then he says, or is it reasonable? I think he meant unreasonable. Or is it unreasonable to feel uncomfortable? Is it reasonable to feel uncomfortable? That's fine. Feel uncomfortable if you must, and talk about it with your partner. But I think when you start dishing out ultimatums and telling somebody to end their friendships that are platonic, I don't know. I think that's messy. I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that.
Well, he's asking the question.
Right.
I don't.
I mean, that's my answer. I don't think it's the right thing to do to assume that these are men that would love to be with her. And if it's a man that she used to like and they never dated, I don't know. I just think this is a really gray area. And so I'm going to come down on the side of she hasn't done anything wrong. No lines have been crossed. If you're just trying to protect the relationship by controlling it, then I don't know that that's a great relationship.
Well, there are two ways to look at this, and I agree with you. I think it all comes down to the strength of the relationship and how confident you are in that relationship, not in yourself necessarily, but in the closeness of your relationship. But I look at the way he wrote it is she's in touch with her most recent ex, and other men who would love to be with her, and men she used to like. So it
Yeah,
sounds to me like she's collecting an awful lot of male friends.
I guess.
I mean, again, he wrote it, so we don't know. He might be, overreacting, but just the way he wrote it, we kind of have to take it at face value. And it seems like that's what she likes to do is have a bunch of male friends. And maybe it gives her a big ego boost that all these guys want to be around her.
Maybe.
I don't know. I will
It's
tell
great.
you, while you were just talking, I thought about this on New Year's Eve. Laura and I were going downtown Salt Lake to, all the festivities. And we got in an elevator in this parking garage, and there were like 15 other people in there. So we were like jammed in there. And the dude that was the closest to the buttons, um,
Right.
got on there. He turned right to Laura, picked up her hand and kissed her hand and basically said, "Oh, you are such a beautiful woman, and any man would love to be with you," and all this stuff. And I'm just going, dude, I'm right here.
That was so weird.
Yeah. And she turned like this and she looked at me like, what the hell is going on? And then the doors opened and we got off. And so it was like this, 20-second interlude of weirdness. And I didn't know if, it's not like I sat there going, like, I need to punch this guy in the face or anything. It was just an awkward moment of some dude either literally hitting on my girlfriend or just kind of being a weirdo. I don't even know which one it was.
Was he an older guy?
No, he was like 35, maybe 40.
He was cocky. Well, how did that make you feel? I'm just curious. So, like, when we talk about, being in a relationship and somebody starts flirting with the person that you're with right in front of you, does that make you like her more because she was getting that compliment? Does that make you mad? What did that make you feel? I'm just curious.
I proud.
That's what I would think. I mean, like, I know that when I have been with somebody and somebody is staring at me from across the way and making it obvious to the person I'm with, or when somebody comes up to me and asks me to dance and I'm standing with somebody, those are things that, like, it is good for our self-esteem and it is an ego boost. And I think what we're always hoping is that the person that we're with just, gets that proudness or that, wow, she's mine. And this person just did that. I mean, so kind of hats off to him. He was weird, but he kind of made both of you feel really good.
Yeah. Oh, what's interesting is maybe 10 minutes later, we were walking down, it's this outdoor mall place called the Gateway in Salt Lake, for those who know about it. We're walking down and we're holding hands as we're walking down the sidewalk, and there was like a post. And so we reached our hands up over the post as we were walking down the sidewalk, and some dude was walking towards us, and he looks at me and goes, "You better hold on to her." Again, because she's gorgeous.
Aw.
And she looked at me and she goes, "What does he even mean?
So you
What does he
say.
even talk?" She goes, what does he mean by that?" And he goes, and I said, "He means you're hot as hell. And so, yeah, I better hold on to you, or some dude's just going to come right up and start hitting on you." And she goes, "Oh, whatever." But
Well,
Anyway,
That was good.
anyway,
Those are very nice. Those are nice things. I mean, and here we are, we're talking about, nice things. So I think maybe it depends on the situation. Like, I don't know what their relationship is like. If they have like a wonderful, loving, caring, really great relationship, and she has these friends or she's collecting these men from her past, is it not possible that, like me, if you have somebody in your life that the relationship didn't work out with or didn't happen with, or it just started and it fizzled out, I don't ever think of it as I'm collecting men. But now it makes me think, if I'm dating somebody, is that how they would look at it? That my self-esteem needs to be surrounded by men, or that I need to collect them, or whatever. I don't feel that that's who I am at all. And so maybe that's not who she is. So I'm hoping that he will look at this, the writer, controlling or cuckolded, through my eyes, which is, I have many friends that are male. I am friends with my ex-husband. I was friends with both my ex-husbands up until recently. And it has nothing to do with anybody that I would be in a relationship with. None of those relationships would take away from a man that I had romantic feelings for, was in a relationship with.
well, Pam, you're first off, you're clearly a little bit atypical. Um, Not everybody has that kind of a relationship with their exes, but the other thing is, you also are a part of a very large social group, so you have a lot of female friends as well. So
Yes.
maybe and again, we don't know. He only said that
Right.
she's friends with these male. Does she have 10 times that number of female friends, or does she only have male friends? If she
Oh,
only has male friends, that's when I say she sounds like she's collecting male friends.
no. And that's a good point. I didn't think about it from that perspective. I mean, I do have more female friends than male friends, but I value them equally.
Well, so here's the deal, and it's a big shock, everyone. I'm going to suggest that they have some open communication. That's what we always say, right? They need to be able to communicate about this. But it reminds me, my little sister, she's what, 4 years younger than I am. When she got engaged, and we're from Utah, you get engaged really young here. But she got engaged. I think she was 21 or 22, and her high school boyfriend had gone on a Mormon mission,
Mhm.
and he got home when he was 21, and so my sister was engaged, and Billy was her high school boyfriend. They'd obviously broken up. In fact, they broke up before he left on his mission or anything. But he got home from his mission and invited her to this like welcome home party that his parents were throwing,
Right.
and she wanted to go. And so she goes to her fiance and says, "Hey, I want to go to this party." And she invited her fiance, my future brother-in-law, and he said, "I'm just not real comfortable with that."
Hmm.
Now, I don't know why, and I'm not judging him for being uncomfortable with that, but she called me, my sister called me, and this is 35 years ago or more. Holy crap. Like 36 years ago. And she calls me up and she says, "I think he's being unreasonable. Um, and I want to go, and I think it's okay for me to go. What do you think?" Now, I'd never been married at this point. I mean, what the hell do I know? Especially what the hell do I know now, but even
Right.
less then. But I said to her, I said, if your partner is uncomfortable with it, you haven't seen this guy in 3 years. It's not like you've been hanging out a lot. All of a sudden, he's inviting you to a party. Why would you risk your
Mm,
relationship for that friendship, or
right.
the former friendship?
Absentee friendship.
Yeah. And I said, "What is this about pride? Are you just saying F you, future husband?" I'm trying not to use
Trying
their
to
real
make him
names here.
jealous, maybe.
Yeah. And she sat there and she goes, "Oh, you're right." And so she ended up not going.
That's great
Um,
advice, Tom.
well, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
thought it was good advice then. I don't, and I
I
still
say
think
I
it's good advice.
I say I learn more from listening to our show, especially listening to it back when it plays. I learn more about myself from this show than from the other 10 podcasts that I listen to.
This is
And that
Pam's
was a great
therapy
point, 'cause
session.
I could see myself in that situation. I could see me dating somebody and getting invited by any one of the exes that I keep in touch with, but I don't talk to on a regular basis. And I can see having that conversation and me automatically being like, well, what's the problem? We're just friends. But you're right. Some of them I don't talk to, but every few years we just check in. Like, and I have a lot of exes that I just that check in with me or I check in with them. I have a guy that I checked in with that I haven't talked to in 7 or 8 years ago. I met him on Facebook. I was in a Facebook group probably 15 years ago. And we dated a couple times. We got together maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 times during my separation. And I thought it might turn and by the way, I had a separation with a paper that said we were both allowed to date.
Hall
And I
pass.
thought it might what?
Hall pass.
Oh, yes, I guess it was a hall pass. He had it too, though. I don't know. Anyway, we hooked up a few times. I really liked him. He lived in Asheville, so it wasn't a convenient thing. But we said when we were together that if neither one of us was married in 10 years, we would marry each other. And then we kind of we fell apart. We drifted apart. And then a couple of years later, I heard from him. And then a couple of years later from that, I touched base with him. And I just reached out to him like a week or two ago just to see how he was doing. And he has a girlfriend and he's super happy, which makes me super happy because I don't think the 10-year thing was legit. We were never going to get married. But like, I don't know, it's very comfortable for me to have these ongoing relationships where you just touch base with people that at one point you cared about. But if it came to choosing between one of those and somebody that I was in a relationship with now, there's no contest that I would choose the person I'm in a relationship with now if it made them
Sure.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to the dude how did he sign it?
Cuckolded.
Controlling or cuckolded. I mean, he's trying not to be controlling. I mean, that's the thing. He
Right.
wants to set boundaries without being controlling. And I think that's
Right.
that's a balance.
Right.
And good for him for wanting to do that. He doesn't want to be that toxic douchebag. But at the same time, he wants to feel comfortable in his relationship. And I think that's an admirable goal, that the only way to reach it is to communicate, talk about it. She needs to understand what makes him uncomfortable. Well, let me back up. He needs to understand what makes him uncomfortable so that he can
Right.
explain it to her, but she has to be willing to listen. There's got to be
Right.
a solution, but they have to understand it first.
And like we've said, I do think that in a situation where it's not somebody that she really has a high value on, then the relationship should come first. But if it is a friend that she truly values, that she's had for a long time, whether they dated or they were married or whether they almost liked each other 20 years ago, it doesn't really matter. I think that you need to find the security within the relationship. And if you guys don't have that, then that's a much bigger problem if neither person is willing to compromise on that.
Agreed. I think
All
we
right.
beat that one to death, right?
All right. So today was our first day with 2 emails. We'll see how people like that format. I really like it because it gave us an opportunity to talk about things that we wouldn't have come up with on our own. So if you liked that, if you liked our 2 email format, please let us know. If you listen to this on YouTube or Spotify, you can leave comments. We read them all. You know that I read them all. And if you want to send us in your own story, ask for advice, give us your opinion on topics. The email is talkingphase@gmail.com, just like the name of the podcast, talkingphase@gmail.com. You know we love hearing from you. And you also know that I read every single email. So when Tom says we have a ton of emails, he doesn't even really know, because some of you guys write me an email and all you do is tell me a story. And then I have to write back and say, I need to know what it is that you're asking or what we can help you with. I'm not going to just read your story. You have to self-publish if you want to do that. And some people I've gone back 4 or 5 times in these emails trying to explain that we also can't do 3-page emails. Like, you've been listening to the show, you get an idea for how long these emails can be, and within reason, ask us something and we will try to help. So send them in. Again, it's talkingphase@gmail.com.
With that, you guys, thank you as always for being part of the Talking Phase family. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for rating and reviewing. offer some advice to rejected roommate or to controlling or cuckolded, even if you just want to say what a cool name that they use. Be sure to share this with your friends and family. Follow us on all the social media sites, YouTube, TikTok, as long as it continues to exist, Facebook, Instagram, all of those things. We do this every single Friday morning. So until next Friday, this is Pam and Tom signing off.
Have a great day, week, month, end of January. Stay warm.